Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Shea with Aligned Life Chiropractic and Wellness. Today, we're going to be presenting nutrition for healing. And I'm really excited to go through this content with you because most of the time when people show up at the office, they don't come in initially because they feel amazing, right? Most of the time when people present to Aligned Life, it's because they have a health problem that they want to have addressed and they were looking for a solution, and ultimately they need to heal. From a chiropractic perspective, we often try to address that through working on their structure and their posture. But to really round out someone's approach and give them a holistic approach to getting well, nutritionally, they need to be sound. Otherwise, it can delay or actually make it so it's really impossible to heal. So today I'm going to give you some background as to how to be able to look at what you put in your body very objectively and to start becoming more deliberate about how you create an overall healthy lifestyle. So today, I just wanted to jump into this content. The first thing I wanted to talk about, though, is a friend of ours. This is a gentleman by the name of Isaac. Isaac is a practice member at Aligned Life. He's had a really unique path. Very early on in his life, he was diagnosed with leukemia. He battled that and actually ended up beating that form of cancer, was 5 years cancer-free. Unfortunately, he had a relapse of that, a second bout of leukemia. He fought that, beat that, had 5 years being cancer-free. Unfortunately, for the third time, he was just recently diagnosed with a glioblastoma, which is a brain tumor. And the brain tumor, unfortunately, is very aggressive and is really not curable by modern day standards. He is undergoing a lot of treatment right now from both a Western medicine approach as well as a holistic approach, and he's really trying to get well. We want to be able to help support Isaac as much as we possibly can. And one of the ways that we are doing that is I'm creating this presentation to give to you guys with the hope that maybe you'll consider donating some funds to his GoFundMe page, which if you go to GoFundMe.com, you'll be able to find his link there for Isaac Martinez. He is a good kid. He's 18 years old. He's had a tough go. He has the goal of actually going to be able to, he wants to go to Egypt just to be able to see the world. And I think that that's fantastic. We're trying to support his goal of being able to do that. We're also looking to help with being able to support his parents so they can take some time off of work to be able to be with him. They are currently out in Idaho and he's undergoing some treatment. I just got word back from his dad earlier in the week that he was actually able to start transferring from a wheelchair to the commode, which is a big deal. So his strength in his legs is coming back, which is awesome. So we're seeing some positive improvement in regards to his treatment. And so we just want to be able to support that. So please, Align Life community, you guys have always been fantastic in supporting some things that really are important in people's overall life. I think that this very much fits the bill for that. So look for that moving forward. With that in mind, let's jump into our content for today. So first thing I wanted to talk about is I believe that health is all about momentum. And I'll be curious to see if you can relate to this situation. I know that I certainly can relate. Oftentimes, I find people that are well who unfortunately undergo an injury. And the injury makes it so that they have pain. Because they have pain, they find that they can't exercise. And because they can't exercise, they start to feel stressed. And when they feel stressed, they want to find something that helps them to feel better. And oftentimes, this comes in the form of food. And when we're feeling stressed, we don't reach for green leafy vegetables, right? We go for all of the comfort foods, right? My mom used to say the stuff that sticks to your ribs, right? So when we eat that type of food, oftentimes it's very inflammatory, which increases the inflammation response within the body and actually makes us express more pain. Now, we definitely can't exercise. We definitely feel more stressed. And you'll notice that we just start cycling downward. And this is what oftentimes happens for people in the beginning. Now, the good news is, as we mentioned initially, health is all about momentum. So what we can do is we can actually start working on reducing the inflammatory levels in the body. We can start reducing the injury component to the body and start actually cycling upward again. And that's really what I want to be focused on for you guys today, is how can we stop that negative cycle and start moving in the right direction? I also believe that health is very much on a spectrum at all times. And what I mean by that is, let's just say, this side of the screen is 100% 10 out of 10 health, and this side of the screen, well, let's just call that death. Okay, so 100% health and death. Every single time we make a choice around our health, especially in regards to like what we put in our bodies, we are turning in a certain direction. So maybe I'm facing this direction because maybe I've chosen something that was negative for my health. Or on the other side of the equation, we could be choosing something that's really good for us. And now all of a sudden I'm pointing this way and I'm starting to march in this direction. So I always use the example of like, are you going to choose the Twinkie or the apple? Do you guys remember Twinkies, Hostess cupcakes and all those crazy things? So this is our daily experience. Keep in mind, your body is a self-healing and self-regulating organism. What does that mean? That means that no matter where you're at in your life, how old or how young, how deep, dark down the path you've gone, or maybe you're at the very beginning of your health journey, your body is always trying to get you well. So a great example of this is if you were to smoke cigarettes for 20 years, the day you decide to quit is the day that your body goes back in and tries to start working on healing those lungs and improving your function. The same thing happens from a healing perspective in regards to the food that you put in your body. So if today you decide that you want to make a difference in the way that your body is going to express health, and you start living a lifestyle and not focus on crisis interventions like diets and so forth, which can be necessary in the beginning when we're in an acute crisis. But in the grand scheme of things, we want to focus on a lifestyle, living a healthy way. Then today could be your day to be able to really turn things around. So when it comes to health, how do we influence the way that our body works? I think it's really important to understand the basic fundamentals of the human body. And that really is the cell. The cells are the basic fundamental building block of the entire body. There's about 75 trillion cells in the human body, and they all work together synergistically, which is pretty amazing, right? To coordinate all of that at the same time. So the health of your cells and how well they function determines the health and how well you function as an individual. So if you understand that, then the question that you want to be asking yourself is, what type of environment do I need to put my cells in order for them to express abundant health? And a part of that has to do with the food that we put into our body, and accordingly, that will dictate how well you heal. In an ideal version, your body would be a perfect healing machine. Meaning if you went out and you exercised really hard and you stressed the body, or you had a really stressful day at the office, or your kids were nagging you or whatever, your body would tolerate that stress. It would be durable, and it would heal from that, being able to come back the following day and be able to prevent any future breakdown, but really live at 100% version. So this perfect healing machine is what we're looking for. I want to talk about a couple of key questions that are really vital to understand if you want to be healthy for the long term and create that ideal lifestyle. The first part is again, looking from an environmental impact perspective. If the health of your cells determines the health of your body, then the question that we could be thinking about is what things does my body need from my environment in order to thrive? And how can I get enough of these on a regular basis? Really what we're looking for is, how can I create a pure environment that is sufficient in the things that I need in order to express health? Conversely, what things in my environment make my body sick? And make notes of that and try not to encourage that repetitively, which we often do. How can I reduce or eliminate these from my lifestyle? So how can I eliminate toxicity, and how can I make it so that I'm not deficient in the things that I need regularly? So purity and sufficiency versus toxicity and deficiency, these are fundamental principles of being well for life. So I just wanted to introduce those right off the bat so we can start priming our brain to look at our environment very objectively so that we put the things in that we need and not the things we don't. So if we were to define health in a very clear way, I would define this as homeostatic cellular function. So first off, what does homeostasis mean? Homeostasis, another word for that would be balanced. So balanced cell function means that your cells are functioning at an optimal level at all times. When we move away from being healthy, we move into a stressful situation. So stress pushes us away from optimal cell function and into what's called adaptive physiology, which essentially means it's pushing us away from balance and into a place where the body is having to stress itself in order to overcome the environment that we've put ourselves in. So how does this happen? Well, we look at what we eat, how we move, how we think, and the structure and posture of our body. These are environmental cues that really influence the way that our bodies work. So if you're eating processed or refined sugars on a regular basis, this will stress your body. If you have a sedentary lifestyle or poor movement patterns, right? Don't have good form while we're exercising. This can be very stressful to the body. If we have negative self-talk or toxic relationships, this is incredibly stressful, probably the most difficult one out of all of them. And then lastly is thinking about from a structural perspective, if I'm sitting in a posture like this all day long with forward head posture, a straightened cervical curve, I have stress on my spinal cord, I'm on my cell phone or my laptop all day long. These are stressful things. I'm sitting on my wallet, my posture's kicked over to the side. So our nervous system becomes aware of these actual or perceived threats from our environment, and it kicks on what's called the stress response. Another way to think of this is the fight or flight response. So your body is designed to handle short-term stress. So for example, if you go out and you eat a little bit of ice cream because you're celebrating a win that you have in your life, no big deal. Your body alarms to this. It becomes aware that this is happening. It adapts to that stressor, and then ultimately it returns to homeostasis or balance, which, great, no big deal. That's not a concern. Unfortunately, however, in the modern world, we don't just undergo short-term stress. These days, we're undergoing long-term or chronic stress. So your body alarms to the stressor. It attempts to adapt, but because the stress doesn't stop, it ultimately perpetuates itself. It's continuous. We eventually fatigue. And finally, after a period of time of fatigue, then we'll see injury take place. We'll see disease arise. So what are examples of long-term stressors that play out? Well, it's all the chronic lifestyle diseases. It's your cancers, your strokes, hypertension, diabetes, osteoporosis, obesity. All of these things don't happen overnight. They are latent chronic stressors that show up over a period of time and ultimately massively impact our health, because the majority of people pass away these days, not because of acute stress or acute trauma, but because now better healthcare, better understanding of how to be healthy, we live longer, and those chronic lifestyle diseases have a chance to catch up to us and ultimately can take us out. So from a healing perspective, from a nutritional perspective, this makes a massive difference, because it's not the short-term stressor that gets us. It's the lifestyle disease over a period of time. It's what we're putting in our body day in and day out that makes the most difference. So let's look at this. What are the right questions that we need to ask from a nutritional perspective if we want to be healthy? Which foods are pure, and in what quantities do I eat them in order to encourage homeostasis? Would be a great question. And how can I reduce or eliminate toxic foods? And guys, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions that you ask. So when we think about this, it needs to be a deep, deliberate thought. It can't just be a surface level understanding. So let's dive into answering these questions. So what do I want to include in my diet? So fruits and vegetables is number one. If it's possible, I always recommend the use of organic foods. So organic means no genetically modified, no GMOs, and it also means that we eliminate pesticides and herbicides that can also often toxify the food sources that we put into our body. It also has a massive environmental impact in a very positive way when we make our food from organic sources. Now, I understand, guys, this increases the amount of cost from a financial perspective into our life, but there's a farmer in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. He talks about, I understand that the cost of organic foods is more expensive, but have you priced cancer lately? And I understand, guys, that this is a very hard line that he is taking, but there is some relevance to that in regards to, can we eat food that was created in a healthy way too? And you'll see that that plays out as a theme throughout what we're going to describe here. The next thing we want to put into our body, if you are not a vegetarian, would be meat. So this is from healthy animals. We want to eat food that ate well too. So the example of, that we often think about is the idea of grass-fed beef. So these are cows that ate well, or maybe it's chickens that was having a vegetarian diet. These types of things are going to perpetuate. It increases the amount of omega-3 fatty acid, which is anti-inflammatory. It decreases inflammation in the body versus animals that were fed corn and soy that are filled with omega-6 fatty acid, which increases the amount of inflammation in the body and often leads to an increase in inflammation in our bodies when we eat those animal products. So if you're going to be a meat eater, then make sure that the animals that you're eating also ate well too. We would also want to encourage nuts and seeds, organic if possible, healthy oils that are naturally occurring, right? So we'll talk about in just a second things that we wouldn't want to include. An example of a healthy oil would be something like an olive oil. If you are someone who's not sensitive to gluten, then the use of grains would be good. So I eat white rice or white potatoes often, especially when my training volume goes up, so including that. And then lastly would be eggs, especially from, again, healthy animals. So I understand that there's tons of different diets out there. Ones that you only eat vegetables, ones that you only eat meat, or ones that you eat certain things and not others. I understand this. I also understand that there's calories as a part of this and calorie counting and looking at all of that. I get it. For me personally, and I can only speak from my personal experience, I've never been able to consistently count calories in a way that I felt like was conducive to my lifestyle. Now, you may be someone who is more regimented, more disciplined than I am, and that might work really well for you. And gosh, by all means, fantastic. You would be very aware of what you're putting into your system and the quantities that you're putting in. I also understand that weight loss is oftentimes a mathematical equation to some degree. So understanding that would be very important. In the grand scheme of things, utilize what works for you and what jives with your belief systems. But recognize that the source of the food that you're putting in your body really influences the health of your body. Again, it's the environment that you're putting your cells in which to operate. Make sure that the sources are pure and make sure that you're getting a sufficient quantity. So next, what do we exclude or want to eliminate or reduce in our diets? Refined sugars and high fructose corn syrup, guys. This is the white table sugar. It's also the stuff that's often found in sodas and so forth. This stuff is proliferated all over the place. It moves us away from homeostatic cell function into a stressful adaptive physiology. We don't want this in our diets. Man-made fats like hydrogenated oils or MSG, monosodium glutamate, often found in things like Chinese food and so forth. We do not want this in our body. This is highly inflammatory. It's highly, if you have an autoimmune condition, it will definitely kick up your autoimmune response and increase inflammation in the body, delay your healing. Processed foods. Guys, these are all the things in boxes that live in the middle of the grocery store. So one of my simple recommendations that is often quite profound for people is when you're shopping in a grocery store, just shop the outside ring of the grocery store. Why? Because what's on the outside ring of the grocery store is all of the healthy stuff. It's all of the things that are alive, not the stuff that's been processed that's designed to sit and increase the shelf life of these products, which oftentimes reduces their nutrient quality and puts us potentially at risk for inflammation. If you are sensitive, then reducing the amount of grains and dairy into your diet would also be really good. I know for me, personally, I just don't do well with dairy. It breaks out my skin. I notice a lot of inflammation and so forth. So I've eliminated or reduced that as much as possible in my diet. Other people have gluten intolerance and so forth. So being able to be smart. A key part of this process from a nutritional perspective is knowing yourself. It's our number one core value at Aligned Life is to know yourself. So if you can listen to your body, which oftentimes I find is a skill that we've lost, especially as adults, we've been taught that if we have an injury, rub some dirt on it, get back in there, suck it up. These are all things that we hear from our elders and oftentimes the people that we really trust, our coaches and so forth, our parents oftentimes. So if we can be smart about this and we can start being intuitive and listening to our body, doing what it is asking of us, and not just listening, but being able to interpret that message correctly, which is a skill and sometimes requires us being able to seek out help from healthcare providers and so forth. And then lastly, the key part of this is don't just listen, don't just interpret correctly, but then act upon what your body is telling you. That is going to make all the difference. So especially when it comes to food. So if you're sensitive to grains and dairy, cut it out, eliminate it from your lifestyle. Last one that I have on here to reduce or eliminate is alcohol. Alcohol messes you up. It reduces your ability to absorb nutrients. It reduces your ability to get into a healthy sleep cycle. So when we are in REM sleep, like deep sleep at night, growth hormone is secreted, which is really important because it allows us to be able to rest, recover, and repair. Most importantly, to recover, to be able to go again and have that perfect healing machine mentality so that the next day we can wake up and be productive again. If you're drinking alcohol, especially at night, it eliminates your ability to get into REM sleep, which stops that growth hormone, which means ultimately the body is just going to break down over time. So these are the stuff that I want you to reduce or eliminate as much as possible. I've got some of these slides on here that are specific to the questions that I've had asked that are a little bit outside of the normal, but I think are very relevant to your implementation. So let's talk about the timing of when you consume food. First off, I really discourage you from eating a midnight snack. Again, it stops your REM sleep. It also makes it so that your body never has a chance to actually eliminate everything from the gut. And it's almost like you're running your system hot all day long and never gets a chance to clean itself all the way out. And that really has a problematic effect. We know that bowel cancer and so forth, colon cancer, these are some of the most aggressive and deadly forms of cancer. And a lot of this has to do with just never having the system all the way cleaned out. Number two, I have listened to your body in the morning. Sometimes people really do well by not having breakfast, and other times people do really poorly. So for you, the individuals that exercise first thing in the morning, maybe you don't want to have a big breakfast right before you go and train. For the others of you that, maybe you train in the evening, a huge meal at the very beginning of the day may be in your best interest. So really be thoughtful and mindful of what you're putting into your body at the beginning of the day to fuel your day. Number three, I have eat to maximize your energy, not to feel sluggish or bloated. I think that goes without saying. Maximize the number of hours in a row that you fast daily. So what I'm really talking about here is this idea of intermittent fasting, which is trying to consume food in as tight of a timeline as you possibly can, the shortest number of hours, and then have on the other side of that, the maximum number of hours around that where you're not consuming food. So again, you can clean out the system, make sure that you have a good, healthy gut and colon in order to be able to process the foods on the following day. So I also recommend, maybe once or twice a year, actually doing a 24 or 48 hour fast. This gives your body really that full time frame that you'll notice. And it also helps you to tune in to the sensation of being hungry. Oftentimes we just have a tendency to get into the rhythm of, I eat at 6 a.m., I eat at 12, then I eat at 6 p.m., and then snacks here and there throughout, or we do, the snacking in the evening before bed and so forth. Really, we should tune into the idea that we should eat when we're hungry, not just because of a certain time on the clock. And by doing a fast once or twice a year, I think this gives us a really good opportunity to be able to tune into that feeling of feeling hungry. So that way we're not just eating sort of mindlessly. Okay. Another thing that people often ask me about is when and what to eat before and after exercise. So before exercise, I recommend the use of some carbohydrates. This might become in the form of like a fruit or vegetable, maybe like a banana or something right before exercise. This gives us free-floating blood sugar. Blood sugar is used for quick energy, which from an athletic perspective, from an exercise perspective, would be an advantage. After exercise, your body has used up its nutrients. The cells of your body are wide open to be able to restore and stock those nutrients. And so having protein, like amino acids, to be able to help repair the muscle that you broke down and be able to come back stronger and build that muscular strength for the next workout is really important. So that might be something like, a meat product or maybe a protein powder, something like that, and some carbohydrate, right? Glycogen, which is the storage form of sugar, is first stored in our muscles. We have about a day to day and a half, 2 days of sugar that is stored in the muscle, but when we exercise, we burn that up. So to be able to repair and recover for the next workout, being able to get a little bit of carbohydrate, which again, maybe it's in the form of a smoothie or something like that, could be really helpful to be able to help you recover that glycogen store and be ready to go for the next exercise session. Something that my family has adopted very specifically over the last 2 years is this idea of meal prep. So for us, meal preparation is really important because we lead busy lives, right? We've got kids, we've got to practice. My wife's working, I'm working. There's a lot going on. The kids have sports, etc. So to assume that on a Wednesday night after everybody's worked, everybody's gone to school, everybody's done sports, to think that you're going to come home and grocery shop, prepare food, eat food, clean up the kitchen, and get ready for the next day is it's just a lot to ask, right? So if we can prepare ahead of time and do some preparation, usually we see that people's outcomes go better. Not only do they save money, but they also save time, and it improves their health. It improves the environment their body is operating in so that their cells can function at 100% so they can continue healing is ultimately the key piece. So logistically, I recommend choosing a day of the week. So for us, it's Sunday. We grocery shop, we chop the vegetables that are consistently throughout our meals throughout the week. So this would be like your green and red peppers, your mushrooms, your onions, the things that you use a lot of the time. And then we also, I grill and cook all of the meat at the beginning of the week on Sunday. So everything is then taken, it's put in storage containers into the refrigerator. And then during the week, like on a Wednesday night, when we come home and we're tired, we don't want to do that extra effort. We just take the food out of the refrigerator, we heat it up, and then boom, we've got a really nice meal. The keys to making this successful over the long term is, guys, don't do the chicken and broccoli thing every day. I just don't know if that's really a lifestyle. I think it's a great acute management if you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to put on muscular mass. Chicken and broccoli, awesome, go get it. It's going to help you in the short term, but you're going to find after a period of time, it's really hard to sustain this. So change up the recipes. Do an Asian dish, do a Mexican dish, do a Greek dish, right? Then the following week, you're going to change it up and maybe do a Thai. You're going to do, burgers. You're going to do fish. Change it up. Make it something that is sustainable and that you enjoy eating. I also recommend that you make this a family event. Have the kids chopping. Have them work on the barbecue if it's safe, right? Teach them about what healthy eating is all about. Talk to them about why you're putting this stuff into your regular diet so that they can start diagnosing, is this predominantly a protein-based food? Is this a carbohydrate? Is this a fat? And we use what's called a portion plate, especially when the kids were young. A portion plate is just a plate. You can buy them on Amazon. It has 3 sections: protein, fat, and carbohydrate. And ultimately, you want to populate each of the portions of that plate with a food choice that comes from each of those categories for every single meal. That way, we're getting a very balanced diet, and we're not going to end up with too much of one thing and become deficient in another. Lastly, guys, I'd recommend that you make this fun. So turn up the music, right? Have a moment with your family. I think you'll be surprised how profound that experience will be if you're willing to put some energy into making it an enjoyable experience. Let the kids choose the music. Have them be involved in the process. You're going to be very happy that you've done this because you're going to create a healthy next generation, which, these days as a dad, I think a lot about what is my kid's life going to be like as they move forward? How can I make them more durable? How can I have them heal better so that they can continue to be healthy adults and have a healthy next generation beyond them too? Next one that I want to talk about is supplementation. So these days, it's tough to get all the nutrients that we need in our body just because our environment has become more difficult to have that happen. We have these food deserts where there's just no healthy, good food in and around us, especially if you live in certain neighborhoods. It's just tough to come by. So if you can't find healthy food on a regular basis, or you're concerned that you're not getting it in a sufficient quantity, I definitely recommend the use of supplementation to make this work. Now, keep in mind, I recommend that supplements aren't used in acute management. Of course, if you need them, do that, right? But in the grand scheme, if you can get beyond acute management and start talking about how can I keep my body at optimal levels all the time and create a buffer between sickness and disease, that's wide so that I can be durable when things become stressful. You'd want to be taking these things on a regular basis, irrespective of if you have symptoms. So a multivitamin, fish oil for healthy fat in your body to reduce inflammation, increase your omega-3 fatty acid content, a probiotic. Probiotic are the healthy bacteria that line the digestive tract that make an enormous contribution to your ability to stay well and have a healthy immune response. There's many more times healthy bacteria in the gut of our body than there are cells in our body. So there's a massive war going on all the time in our gut, and you want to give your body the healthiest army to populate that area and stay well. If you take antibiotics, it doesn't just wipe out the good bacteria or the bad bacteria, it wipes out everything. So if you were to take an antibiotic, make sure that you're repopulating the gut with healthy probiotic. That could come in the form of things like kombucha, kimchi, foods that have been pickled. These are great ways of being able to get that in your diet, or you can just go ahead and supplement with a probiotic supplement. Vitamins A and D you would want to supplement with. These are cofactors that massively influence the ability of your body to use those other nutrients in an effective way so you can absorb them and use them. And then lastly, I put on here protein powder because I use protein powder pretty regularly after exercise. I drink a smoothie in the morning on my way to work. It's this green smoothie. It's spinach, spirulina for protein. There's protein powder, there's ice, there's almond milk, there's coconut mono, which is for fat, and there's a banana for carbohydrate. I smoothie that up in a big blender, and then I drink that on the way to work, and it works really good. The protein powder is a great way to make sure that we're getting amino acids to help, again, heal those muscles that I just exercised to be able to, again, come back stronger and healthier the next day. Overall, guys, the less you negatively stress the body, the less it has to adapt and the greater your healing capacity. So remember, this comes in all forms. So how you eat, how you move, how you think, and the structure of your body. So make sure that you're thinking of your health from a holistic perspective. If you need help from the Align Life family, make sure you're reaching out. We would love to be able to assist you. Please consider donating to Isaac Martinez GoFundMe. If you need information on that, we'd be happy to provide that. alignedlifewell@gmail.com. You can also check out the other videos on our YouTube channel at Dr. Devin Shea. Our website is alignedlifewellness.com. We look forward to working with you guys, and I hope this has helped you be able to put your body in the environment to heal. Have a great day.